Yes, we'll be back from the break. You're still watching Smart Means Business Line, and we're heading into our business insight, which is into the pipeline. And like I told you, we shall be, of course, discussing on the matters to do with the World Bank suspension, of course, due to various reasons, especially when it comes to the social perspectives. But of course, before we get into this discussion, I would love to remind you that still that the markets on the Zabo platform are on. *292# is simply the code for you there to be part of this market. And here you'll be in position to buy government bonds and securities for a fee of just 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, the markets as I speak right now, they already opened, and they open at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they'll be running all the way to 3:15 p.m. That is East African time. And this is effective up to Friday, Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and the public holidays when these markets cannot be accessed. But of course, despite that, you have the rest of the days to make money, to capitalize, and yeah, you'll be able to make a difference with your life. And I believe trading bonds and securities is the new normal. It's the 21st century. We got to change our strategies on how we can actually earn money. And Zabo, an online platform, is here to enable that. And that's why it says, my money, my future. And Alltex East Africa says, well, you got to do something new for yourself. Remember, it is 2023. Well, now getting into our topic of discussion, like I told you, of course, dwelling onto the World Bank suspension of loaning to Uganda. But before I get in there, you remember on the World Economic Forum, some of the key aspects that were discussed, if we are to remember, were matters to do with economy, governance, and social perspective. And when you look at this loan being put out there, I mean, freezing this loan, it's all coming across the social perspective. But anyway, just that's not the biggest area we're going to be taking a look at the social perspective. Just we're going to be looking at the economic implications of this result, but just to lay down a foundation of how these decisions come to be brought about following a certain framework somewhere. Now here I'm joined with Grace Namugambe. He's a policy analyst. Miss Namugambe, you're very welcome on the show. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning, Grace.
Yes. All right. Now, before we even get into any further discussion or relation to that, when the day this news hit you, what came in your mind first when you heard this?
Yeah, we were shocked because this is like, yeah, if you have a partner and all of a sudden they say they are planning to separate from you, you get concerned.
Yes.
Because you know you have some issues which they feel they have not settled with you. They have some grievances. You may have seen it coming, but at the same time, it still remains a shock. So what shocks is what are the benefits that we have been having in terms of our relationship with World Bank, and what were the expectations. World Bank has been a partner for Uganda for a long time. Of course, since the birth of Uganda, since we got independence.
Yeah.
But the most recent past, we have a lot of projects and programs that are coming to Uganda with support from World Bank.
True.
We have been having around currently more than 30 projects that are running, projects and programs.
Yeah.
Some of these programs are grants, others are loans.
Loans, yeah.
So the immediate reaction is that, one, we are going to lose. Okay, the good thing, they have promised that the pre-existing programs will continue. But those that are had not yet been launched, they are going to be halted. So one, of course, we had expectations for those ones to come. Two, these ones we feel probably, because the way they have stated is like, we are going to continue observing and monitoring to see how they are faring, meaning that still there can be some other trigger and again tighten the knot further. So that reaction, one, we have these 30 projects, they amount to more than 14 billion US dollars, the projects that have been running. And the ones that we are expecting are almost the same figure. So we're expecting about 13 or more than 10 projects that were supposed to come. And there is a lot of money that would have accrued from this. And also beyond that, of course, they sometimes give technical assistance and the like beyond that. And the fact that among those there are grants, then you get concerned. What has each of these projects and programs been doing? Mainly, most of them, they have been giving support in social development. Those Bretton Woods institutions, they are different from others in the sense that one of them is World Bank, the other one is IMF. IMF deals with development, financing. IMF deals with finance, fiscal related, while World Bank deals with development. Now, this kind of development programming, one, they give loans that are slightly lower in terms of interest. Two, they are taking long term, and then three, they are kind of negotiable. And actually, the formation of Uganda Debt Network, the way we came about, one of the ways was about negotiation for the Jubilee campaign, where we are supposed to be forgiven about the debts we are having, and we are forgiven. Unlike other probably upcoming lenders who may not give you that kind of relief in case you have a problem. So World Bank has that kind of support and partnership, and stopping it disrupts. If you list the number of projects that have been going, you have like Dr. Deep, this is to do with resettlement of refugees. You have these projects that are related to food security, those that have been dealing with health strengthening, Uganda support to municipalities and other institutions development, USMID. You know, this we have of recent had more than 10 cities approved, and each of these is getting some support. Even the municipalities, we are getting support from World Bank. So all these, they have a World Bank element, and there are more such projects that we are also coming. So that's the kind of disruption that we are having.
Okay, now Grace, the first time this came in through, how did you perceive of it from your perspective?
So from our perspective, of course, it felt like we're losing out, just like Gilbert said. We're losing out on a partner, definitely, who has helped a lot in terms of aiding the country, in terms of financing, especially. Its budget as well, financing some critical sectors such as health, education, funding different development projects, or which would help spur development. And that meant that if we lose the partner, or if it could have some short run, some negative impact within the short run, and even in the long term. But it's possible for us to prepare for the long term. But the short term, it came so suddenly, and it's definitely something that we need to look into as a country. And like the president said, that he's willing to negotiate, and I think that's a good step. That we negotiate and plan for the short term, as we look forward to what to do within the long run. Yeah, the long run.
Okay. Now getting back to Gilbert, you've been mentioning about the 30 projects that the World Bank has been working on in our country, Uganda. Do you think the common person whom they call Omuntu has benefited from those projects? To what extent have they enhanced the country's development, but related to income per capita?
Yes. Yeah. Look at 3-4 successive interventions in northern Uganda. There's one of the projects that I've been directly involved in. It's called NUSAF, Northern Uganda Social Action Fund.
Yes.
We have so far had 3 series, NUSAF 1, NUSAF 2, and NUSAF 3. I was directly involved in NUSAF 2 and 3, where Uganda Debt Network was supporting the capacity of community monitors to monitor the implementation of the projects of NUSAF. And I did directly look at some of those projects. Individuals in upcountry, in the regions of Acholi, West Nile, Teso, parts of Winyoro, Karamoja. There was a lot of money, more than 500 billion, given in each of the 5-year programs. NUSAF 1, 2, 3. So the kind of projects that were happening were one in like livelihood support. They were projects which are infrastructure. They were building some health centers, some roads. Actually, some of the community members were directly involved, say in road construction. Some of those feeder roads, they would go and do some manual labor and get some little money. Which money, some of them, they had like forming themselves into circles and blending. So there was some kind of micro enterprise development around those areas.
Okay.
There were those to do with agroforestry. In some of those areas, they have like a lot of drought. So you'll find that some of the projects were like doing tree planting. Many of those. I'm picking one such example. One, these interventions, they were improving health, they were improving livelihood, they were giving income to people. So the NUSAF 4 was actually already in the offing.
Okay.
But it had not yet been signed off. Meaning that if that is among those that are stopped, definitely that means
a chunk of people are going to,
yes,
the income flow is going to be affected.
We talked about health. There are some of the health centers that have been getting like, you support issues like the staffing, human resource capital development, all that. It goes. Then in all the programs, of course, they have been interacting with people. There are staff in each of the programs, people who are directly employed in those programs, and they are getting salaries or whichever form of facilitation. Now these people have also families by extension. They have, if you're a woman, you have a husband, you have children, you have all the dependents. So if this kind of thing stops, then you have to look for alternatives elsewhere. Of course, you are not supposed to look at it permanently, but this is some kind of a disruption. Two, private sector, which I think my colleague in Seattle will address more. Private sector development, each of these programs has been bringing in money, and if, for example, you are giving food security, you buy from the business, from suppliers. So all the suppliers, all the business community, the private sector that has been dealing directly in these projects, it is affected. Either you were supplying food, or you were supplying equipment, or you were supplying consultancy services. That is a disruption. So higher and lower level, regardless of Omuntu Awansi or Wawagulu, all of them are affected. But the worst affected is the lower level person, because most of these programs have been to do with social protection related programs. And social protection here we refer to programs that target the vulnerable categories of people. These are people with disabilities, these are women, these are minority groups, these are the aged. So all those kinds of people are affected, because most of the programs in World Bank target those areas, including even in agriculture. Agriculture, which is of course the mainstay of Uganda's economy and livelihood.
Maybe lastly, before we get into the break, you can also highlight on something. To what extent have we utilized the loans that we get from the World Bank? Have we really utilized them to expectations? If we were to give it 100 to 100%, to what extent do we utilize them?
There are some of the projects that have been almost on schedule. I am not aware of any of the projects that have been like 100% on schedule. In Uganda, we have that tendency of not being up to the task. But there are some of the projects that you'll find the burn rate is low. The money is released today, and you don't start working, and you find you postpone the start because of some lack of preparation. Either you didn't do the adequate procurement preparation, issues of compensation of, say, project affected persons, issues of matching the funds to top up. So some of those delay. Of course, there are other challenges that have been again happening in Uganda. The issue of transparency and accountability lacking, inadequate funding, issues of corruption cases. All those corruption cases, they have been featuring in some of those areas. So definitely, there are some of the issues that have been happening. But on the whole, we know, even if out of 100, if there's still 30,
yes,
then at least 70 goes somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Well, it's exactly 22 minutes past 9, and we're into our business insight. Of course, having some thoughtful aspects here regarding the World Bank suspending loan in Uganda, of course, due to the laws that were enacted by the president. But definitely, as we can see a number of people that are likely to be affected, as Gilbert has been explaining, something in line with, in northern Uganda, the projects that are being undertaken there, and individually they're impacting the livelihoods of people, and all those people are likely to end up jobless and, have limited income, and their purchasing power is going to be limited, which at the end of the day will affect the economy at the end of the day. But of course, now as we're heading into the break, when we return, of course, we shall be hearing from Namugambe telling us, of course, in matters of financial alternatives. But of course, mainly we shall be dissecting our taxation system, the policies that are within. Will they favor that aspect of our desire for it to cover up the funding gaps? And is it really reliable at the end of the day? Instead of government thinking about cutting salaries of the public workers, well, there could be actually quite a better alternative, because what comes along when salaries are cut of the workers, strikes and all this stuff. You never know what people are going to react about something. You never really tell. Still on that note, still to remind you that the markets on the Zabo platform are on, and be a part of them by dialing *292# to participate. And here you'll be available with options to be in position to buy bonds or securities for a fee of just 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now the market's already on, and they will be running from 8:15 a.m. up to 3:15 p.m. East African time. This is effective Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and the public holidays, when these markets can only be accessed. But of course, despite that, you have the rest of the days to make money, something which I believe it's quite very key and instrumental when it comes to your financial development as an individual. Zabo made this a reality. That's why it says my money, my future. And Alltex East Africa tells you got to do something new for yourself. Remember, it is 2023. Smart Means Business takes a short break, and when we return, we shall be, of course, dissecting further matters in relation to World Bank pausing loaning to Uganda.